Fantasy Audiobook, The Dragon's Curse, Chapter 5, Secrets of the Hidden Cave, Finale, Asterisk, the forest was silent, too silent. Cale could hear nothing but the whisper of wind in the trees and the thrum of blood in his ears. The moon was high, bathing the land in cold silver light, and yet it seemed even that light dared not pierce the heavy darkness around him. His breath came slow, steady, but his heart pounded like a war drum. They had escaped the betrayer's ambush at Eldrenhold Castle, but it had been a hollow victory. Lyra walked a few steps ahead, her bow slung over her shoulder, her movements slower now from her healing wounds. The silver wolf padded silently at her side, its glowing eyes darting from shadow to shadow. The betrayer's words echoed in Cale's mind. "You are nothing but a weapon, boy." He clenched his fist around the hilt of Ildarian's sword. The blade pulsed faintly with light, as if sensing his turmoil, as if reminding him of the power he carried. Lyra's voice broke the silence. "We're close." She pointed ahead, where a jagged ridge loomed, cloaked in mist. "The hidden cave. This is where Mailer—" She paused, correcting herself. "The betrayer, meant to claim the heart," Cale swallowed. "And now we claim it first?" They climbed the ridge slowly, their breaths clouding in the chill night air. The path narrowed until it became nothing more than a ledge, winding like a serpent along the cliffside. The forest below stretched like a sea of black shadows, and in the distance the castle stood silent, its towers broken against the stars. When they reached the top, Cale saw the cave. Its mouth yawned like a colossal beast, jagged stone teeth, framing a darkness so deep it seemed alive. Strange symbols were carved into the rock around the entrance, glowing faintly with a sickly blue light. The air was colder here, carrying the faint scent of smoke and ancient magic. "This place feels wrong," Lyra whispered, her hand resting on her bow. Cale nodded. "We don't have a choice. If the heart of Ildarian is in there, we can't leave it for the shadows." The wolf padded forward first, sniffing the air before slipping into the cave. Cale followed, his sword raised, its light cutting through the gloom. Lyra came next, her footsteps careful but steady. Inside, the cave walls were slick with moisture, and crystals jutted from the stone like frozen lightning, their glow casting eerie shadows. The path sloped downward, twisting deeper into the earth. The air grew thick, humming faintly with energy, as though the cave itself breathed. After what felt like hours, they emerged into a cavern so vast it seemed to swallow the world. Its ceiling stretched high into darkness, and the floor was a maze of jagged rock and glowing pools of water. At the center of the cavern stood an altar of black stone, and upon it rested a massive orb of crimson crystal. The heart of Eldarion.Cale froze. The orb pulsed like a living heart, sending waves of power through the cavern. He could feel it thrumming in his bones, calling to him. The sword in his hand vibrated, its runes glowing brighter, responding to the ancient magic. Lyra stepped beside him, her eyes wide. "So this is it," she whispered. "The source of everything. The curse, the dragons, the betrayer's power." Cale nodded slowly. "It's more than power. It's alive." Before either of them could move closer, a chilling laugh echoed through the cavern. Shadows coiled at the edges of the altar, rising like smoke, and a familiar figure emerged. Maelor.his cloak was torn, his mask shattered, revealing his face twisted and pale, his eyes glowing crimson. He looked like a man half consumed by the very magic he sought to control. "You think you can claim the heart?" Maelor's voice was a hiss, but it carried across the cavern like thunder. "You're a fool, Cale. You were never meant to be a hero. You're a tool, my tool." Cale raised his sword. "I'm not yours." Maelor sneered, shadows swirling around him like a storm. "You will be when the heart bends to me. The dragons will rise, and the world will bow, even you. With a wave of his hand, the shadows surged forward, forming twisted shapes warriors. Of darkness, their eyes glowing red. Lyra drew her bow and loosed an arrow, striking one through the chest, but more came. Crawling out of the walls, the pools, the darkness itself. "Kale, go," she shouted. "Get to the heart." Kale sprinted forward, his sword blazing like the sun, cutting through the shadow beasts. The closer he got to the altar, the stronger the heart's pull became, filling his veins with fire and light. Malor raised his hands, and the shadows coalesced into a massive serpent that lunged at Kale, its maw wide enough to swallow him whole. Kale swung Eldarian's sword with both hands, and the serpent exploded into smoke, but the impact sent him sprawling. "Pathetic," Malor sneered. He strode toward the altar, his hands glowing with dark energy. "You can't stop me." Kale forced himself to his feet, his body screaming in protest. "I'm not alone." As if on cue, the wolf leapt at Malor, slamming into him with enough force to knock him back. Lyra loosed arrow after arrow, pinning Malor's cloak to the ground, forcing him to tear free. Kale seized the moment and reached the altar. The heart pulsed beneath his hands, its warmth both inviting and terrifying. Visions flooded his mind, dragons, soaring through endless skies, kingdoms burning, and Eldarian himself. The first dragon, his golden eyes filled with sorrow. A voice echoed in his mind. "You are chosen, but choice is yours. Bind me or free me. The fate of all rests with you." Malor roared, sending a wave of shadow crashing into Kale, but Kale held firm, gripping the sword in one hand and the heart in the other. "I choose freedom," Kale whispered. He plunged the sword into the heart. The cavern erupted in light. A shockwave of pure energy rippled outward, shattering the altar, tearing apart the shadow beasts, and hurling Malor to the ground. He screamed, the darkness consuming him, twisting his body before he was ripped apart by the light. The heart shattered, its pieces rising into the air like glowing embers before dissolving into mist. The curse was broken. Kale collapsed to his knees, breathing heavily. The sword's glow dimmed, and the cavern fell silent. Save for the sound of dripping water, Lyra approached, limping, her face pale but resolute. "It's done," she whispered. The wolf pressed against Kale's side, its warm fur grounding him. Kale nodded slowly, his gaze fixed on the empty altar. "The heart is gone. The curse is gone." Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder. "And Malor?" Kale looked around. The shadows were gone. The betrayer was no more, but Kale felt no triumph. Only a deep, quiet sorrow for the man who had raised him. They left the cavern together, climbing back into the dawn. The sky was painted in hues of gold and rose, and for the first time in years, the land seemed at peace. At the forest's edge, Kale paused, looking back at the cave. "This isn't the end," he said softly. Lyra smiled faintly. "No, it's just the beginning." Kale gripped Eldarian's sword, its faint runes still alive, a reminder of the burden he carried. The dragon's curse was broken, but darkness never truly slept, and Kale would be ready.